All right, guys. This I'm really stoked about. This is the assembly for my sawed off shotgun, but it's also going to be the assembly for the Coach shotgun kit that I make. I've always had assembly diagrams for this, but since now I'm making a resin version of the sawed off, not the Coach. I'm still working on that to see if that's possible, but of the sawed off, I'm going to assemble the resin version and finally have an assembly video for this instead of just the diagrams. So we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to assemble the resin version here. So we have the barrel, we have the undergrip, we have the foregrip, we have the actual grip, we have the frame here. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm just checking my focus. I changed the way my camera and lighting setup is to hopefully get y'all's point of view closer to what my point of view is. So we have our trigger guard, we have our orange tip, we have our left and right hammers, we have our left and right triggers because this is a dual firing. You can shoot one hammer at a time or pull one trigger at a time or pull both triggers at the same time. Well, not really the same time, there's a slight delay. This is our barrel lock, our barrel release lever. This is our actual barrel release catch. These are our two internal hammers. This is our, it's the little tang that once we assemble this little tang gets, well, if I hadn't dropped it in there upside down, it will get glued, it gets assembled and glued as flush up here to this as we can get. That's, again, these are still assembled and divided up the exact same way as the filament version so that we don't cause any confusion or anything. And this little dude is our front sight, but just the way this looks is just so freaking cool. I love the resin versions. They're so smooth and so ready to go. Yeah, anyways, so what we got here is we have one bag that's got two magnets in it, and I'm going to leave those in there until we get to that point. And if my camera keeps shaking, like I said, I keep turning on the display to see exactly what you guys are seeing so I can make adjustments. We have two springs, going to be for our hammer and our triggers. We have two larger flat M5 screws. We have one longer M40 or M3 40 millimeter screw. We have a 1-inch set screw, and it's not missing the head. Down inside, it takes an Allen wrench, which should be, nope, it's a 1-inch, so it's not metric. So it's a 0.05. So any of the little folding out standardized sets should have a 0.05 in it without a problem. So a 1-inch set screw. Then we have these two countersunk M5 screws. We have these two M20, geez, my brain is not working. M3 20 millimeter screws, which these are 2.5 millimeter driver. And again, any of the little fold out sets of Allens will have a 2.5 millimeter in it. And then we have one Phillips head screw. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to, let's see, well, we'll get started on the main things that we need to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to slide this body together, okay? We need the two 20 millimeter socket head screws. Now these socket heads go straight down in the body right here. If I can drop those. I've had way too much caffeine today. So our 2.5 millimeter Allen, if I can hold my tongue right, and these will start cutting threads And what we're doing here is we're screwing this, we're attaching the frame to the grip. Little bitty snug, not too tight. I mean, you don't want to strip out your threads. But this, you know, high impact resin is extremely tough and good to go. So there we go. All right. So this, and I know that the diagrams have always been a little bit hard to follow. So, you know, actually we're going to put together, we need our barrel release lever, our barrel release catch. We will need the short Phillips, and we will need the the M3 40 millimeter longer screw, and we're going to need our magnets. So my thing about installing magnets, in this kit we need the magnets to attract. So right now they're together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a marker and mark both sides of them. So we have both magnets stuck together, got a mark on both sides. Basically now all I have to remember is when I'm gluing my magnets in, to put them in with the marker forward, like the marker into the hole. Real quick, you can use thick super glue to do your assembly, or you can use a CA glue, which is basically a very slow setting thick super glue and an activator that you spray on it and it instantly activates, or instantly starts to activate. This is a brand I've been using for about 5 or 6 years now. I actually started getting to carry this on my website, so some of y'all have purchased it when you got your kit. There's an option under every kit to add this if you need some. But yeah, I'm stoked to be able to carry this. I've used way too much glue in my building career and had to purchase too many bad batches and stuff, bad bottles where the glue's not good or anything. I've not had any issues at all with this brand. That's why I was like, I want to start using this and carrying it. So what we're going to do is right here, you're going to see a this is a magnet pocket, and your magnet sits down in there just fine. I'm just leaving the two magnets stuck together for now. And maybe my bottle of glue is not dried shut. No, it's not. So I'm just going to put a drop in there, because what you have to remember is this is going to squish out or squish around when you put it in and push it. Now I put them both in there, and you can go ahead and spray or wait for your glue to dry, but you don't have to, because you can just slide that magnet off to the side. And so now that magnet is sitting in there with the glue curing. So our next place our next magnet goes is kind of a pain in the butt. But let me turn my viewfinder back on. You see this hole right here? That's where this magnet has to go. Now, the easiest way that I've found when you're trying to reach down in there, okay, so I have what's left of my marker right there. I'm going to take a screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver, and stick it to the other side, so that when I put this in with the screwdriver and push it in that hole, again, the marker is going to go in first. So I'm going to take, and since I can't really get down in there, I'm just going to take some glue and put about the same amount of drop, let my glue run back down, as I did in the hole. So there's my little drop that's on there. I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to put the magnet down there and try to be quick and pull the screwdriver away. The reason quick, if you pull it, slide the screwdriver off slowly, the magnet sometimes has a tendency to want to flip out and stick to the other side of the screwdriver. Visually verify that the magnet is down in the pocket all the way, and spray or wait for your glue to dry, whichever type of glue you decide to use. I'm going to put my lid back on like a responsible glue owner and set it off to the side. Now we want to make sure we don't have any other glue down in here that's getting in our way. Now this dude right here, it's going to get dropped in and it's automatically going to catch on that magnet, which is fine. Right now, what we're going to want to do is we want to take our lever and stick it. There's a square that matches that square. We want to stick that on. Take our long flat blade screw, slide it down in there, and it'll slide down most of the way, except for the last few like little threads. And we're just going to screw this on. Now, eventually, once you make sure that this is all together the way you want and it's all working properly, you can take this back off and put some glue on the bottom side of this lever. You don't have to. I actually am going to loosen this. Hold my finger. Now, this has some play in it on that square. When this is all the way over, you want your lever to be straight. So if it's not straight, which it's over just a little bit, I'm just going to push it over just a little bit more. And there's that extra little play in there for you to get this aligned. So see, when you let go, that magnet automatically pulls back. The last thing we want to do is we're going to flip this over, and there's a hole right here. Now, we're going to take a Phillips screwdriver, and this is actually an adjustment screw. Not only does it anchor and secure the bottom of this latch, but it also allows us to adjust the height of the latch a little bit back and forth. So I'm going to put this in, and like, we don't want it tight. We just want it to where, see, that still drags. It won't pop back right now. So I'm going to just loosen that a little bit more. So we want that in there, and that screw kind of just sets in there, and it keeps the shaft nice and straight. So we've got that together. What we're going to do now is a little bit funner, in a sarcastic way. Let me turn this viewfinder back on real quick. Maybe. There we go. Okay. We have our two internal hammers, and you see this big opening, or this big shaft in here. We have a cut right here. What we want to do is we want to put one on each side like that, with the spring pocket hole facing up to the back of it. So I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to just put that in there, make sure it's setting forward, because if you notice, you can see it from this side. Well, all I'm going to do is just hold it there, and I'm going to find the correct hammer. That's not the right one. This one, and it has a hexagon that lines up to that hexagon. We're just going to drop that together. And if you have this in the right place, which I do not, we want this pocket to be as far forward as possible. I'm trying to make sure my words are correct. Hang on. We want, let me turn the viewfinder on again here. All right. Basically, when the hammer is all the way against the body, we want this piece rotated as far back. We don't want it up here. We want it down here. That's where we want it. And let me take this out. Like, it's rotated all the way back as far as it can go anyways. It can't go any further back. So once you have that stuck in there, if you pull the hammer back, you see your spring pocket coming up. While holding that there, we need these two larger flat blade screws. We're going to put one in here, and we're just going to tighten this. Now this is going to cut some threads, some pretty tight threads into the center of this body. You're not screwing this screw into this, you're screwing the screw into the center of this body. So we're gonna, well, I have to change the way I hold this here. Now, when we go in, I'm too tight. It doesn't want to move. So I just want to back it off a little bit, And what I want all this to move nice and free. I don't want any binding. Now the FDM filament and the resin assemble the exact same way. The only thing that I suggest on the resin, because you're not going to paint down in here. You don't want to paint any of these internal moving parts because you don't want them to ever get sticky with two painted surfaces touching. So what I do is if you take some silicone or PTFE grease or oil, no petroleum base, because petroleum base and paint and petroleum base and plastics and resins don't get along. You need a silicone synthetic grease or a PTFE synthetic grease, or like this is a PTFE synthetic oil that I use for all kinds of things. When I put this other one in, I'm just going to come in here and put like a little drop. But what you can do if you want to is you can put some around the edge of this hole, which, you know, that the edge of that hole may be painted when you paint this. That's fine. Put a little bit around the edge of the hole. Put a little bit on this face right here. And on this side with the hexagon, you don't need to put anything, but you can put some on this face and a little bit in the hole, just so that it all rotates easier. Here, I'll show you. Of course, this stuff is way runnier than grease. But you can put it all on that face right there. Another place that you want it is this little catch. This is where the hammer catches and releases. You can put a little bit on there. But the reason we want to do that is because, like the FDM filament, it slides against itself pretty good. This resin, it will slide, but it doesn't like to. So on internal stuff with the resin, if it's anything that's going to have any pressure on it, I always just put some lubricant on it. And of course, you know, when you do the final assembly, you're going to be already painted. So you get a little bit of grease or something on your paint, you can wipe it off. But let me get my hammer. So if you notice, again, let me hit my viewfinder because I'm still getting used to this. I have this one lined up the same as the one on the other side. So if you notice down like that, so I'm going to take my hammer and I'm going to stick it right in there so it's up against the body. So I'm going to look and be like, yep, that all rotates good. So I'm going to take my big screw, same as the other side. We're going to put it in and let it start cutting threads. We're going to go in. And now, see, doesn't move. I'm going to back up just a little. That still has a little drag on it. Back up just a little bit more. And now we're good to go. So we got both our hammers. They'll move just fine. I'm going to take and put just a dab. What I just did was I went in here and just put a dab right there, so that allowed it to run down in there. I'm going to put a little bit on my finger and just basically this is just the contact on these points right here for the hammer and trigger where they touch. And the grease lasts a lot longer than this oil does that I have, but that's what I have handy to show you guys. All right, so we're done at that point. So now we're going to put in our 1-inch set screw and our triggers. So this 1-inch set screw, just set it to the hole, and this is going to cut threads as well. So I'll turn once or twice, change my angle, and what we're looking for is we want this screw to go in 90 degrees to the body. So if you go in, look at it one direction, make a couple turns, go to another direction. That way you see from multiple directions that it's going in at a proper 90-degree angle. And once we know it is, we're just going to start screwing. What we can do is go ahead and come out just a little bit, because we're going to put our triggers in. Now, if you notice on these triggers, one side bulges out and one side's flat, same-o, same-o. what we're going to do is we want to put these in the body to where the flat sides are side by side. That's what we're looking for. So you can turn them back over and be like, okay. And if you notice, they're different shapes. We want the further back longer screw because I'm starting on this side first, and we need our 2 springs. So I'm going to put the first spring down into this first pocket right there, just like that. And we're going to take the trigger that's further back. And the reason I made this go through a little bit is because I can take that and set it right up against, well, actually I can make it come out way further than that. There we go. I'm gonna make it come way out. So now we have the rotating point to bring this up and push this trigger on to the set screw. And now I'm going to run this set screw in some more and set that trigger on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this set screw in as far as I can with it still allowing me to slide that in. So I need to back it up. There we go. Okay. And it just makes it easier to align the triggers if you can put them in and move them over and set them on there, because normally with most of these kits, you're not dealing with a dual trigger setup. You're just dealing with one trigger, one hammer. And if I could just not drop my spring, how about I pull my hammer back so my spring pocket pops up, then I can let it go back. All right, so now I'm just going to hook the spring into the spring pocket. I'm going to take my hammer and or my trigger, and I'm going to hold this so I can see that hole back there and put it over our set screw. It might take you a few times doing it. Trust me, I practiced this before I started shooting this because it's been a while since I assembled one of these. And we're going to just screw this in. And what we're going to do is we're going to recess this into the body on both sides, so we're good to go. Just look at both sides down in the hole and make sure that they're recessed about the same amount. So what we're looking for is we have that trigger, and that one is a little bound. Whoop. That one is bound up against the body. You don't want it to drop down past that, and when I put this in, that's exactly, there we go. That's exactly what I did, is I let it go down past that. You don't want to do that. I'm glad I could do it for you. So what we have now is these triggers set up against this lip in the trigger guard. So, and before we glue the trigger guard on, I want to put the trigger guard up here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull both these triggers back so that I can set the trigger guard down in there, which I just screwed that up and didn't pull that trigger back. Pull that back. So we're pulling them back so we can clear that. So now that they set up against there, so we want to pull our triggers. Now I'm going to hold this trigger guard against this. And what we want to do is we want to cock each one of those. And if you feel any binding, don't force it. Just pull the trigger back just a little bit to where you can feel it going against each other, and let it just kind of rub and let it set in. So this the back trigger operates this hammer. This front trigger operates that, or you can cock them back and pull all the way back, and this trigger literally comes back and allows you to hit that one. So you get the double cocking. It goes boom. Yeah. You know, that way. So now that we've done that and verified it works, take the trigger guard off and practice, because you want to be able to pull both triggers back, but not too far, but back enough to get this in here. And the reason I say practice is because the next time we do it, we're going to have glue on here. Let me set this lube off to the side over here. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit, stay away from this front edge where the triggers come up and set, I'm going to put glue. Bottle's about dried closed. All right, I'm gonna put glue on the back of the trigger guard there. I'm gonna put it there. Now as I go on, I'm gonna hold my mouth just right and pull these triggers back and set that in there. And see, that's why you don't want to get glue on that front edge, because you're going to let go of the triggers and you don't want them to set against glue and get glued in place. So I'm going to let all that dry or cure. All right, so got both our boom, boom. And you can fire them out of sequence. You can reach back and hit the back trigger first and then the front trigger. Or you can hit them both. You can hit the front trigger. You can hit the back trigger. It's a proper dual trigger, dual hammer setup. So now what we're going to do is this little dude here. And again, you can put this guy on before you put this lever, but I'm just going to take it, put a little glue. Now pay attention. It's got a slight bow to it. You want the bow to go down. It's to the shape of the actual grip. If you put it in upside down, let me put it in upside down here, it sits out flared out. It doesn't set in there correctly. You want the bow, it's got a slight bow to it, and you want the bow to follow the contour of the grip. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, and again, you'll have all this painted and you may have glued this onto the frame before you ever put it together. I did make it separate because it makes it easier for assembly and to work with. Yeah. Just a little bit of glue on the back and stay standing up. I'm going to take this dude and be careful not to get it on my body as I slide it in. Now I can push this over out of the way and hold pressure down and forward so it closes up the gap as much as you can against this frame. I'm going to let that set for a minute, and there we go. Well, that's not quite a minute, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. All right, so I'm going to put on this front sight real quick, and you want the curve. The front sight has a curve on one side. You want that curve facing forward. And since that hole's so little on the barrel, I'm actually going to put the glue on here. And again, I have people ask, well, why not just make the front sight here part of the barrel? But one, it's because the sights were never part of the barrel. The front sight was always something that was put in and adjusted. And it also makes a much cleaner print line or paint line when you do these separate. And then if they're painted, you put them together, it holds that individuality of the part, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So now we've got our foregrip, which our foregrip goes on, it fits pretty tight. I'm going to go ahead and just glue it. So for this, I always try to put, instead of like putting glue on the raised part of whatever I'm putting together, I try to put it on the intersecting 45 degree or the 90 degree, holy crap, put it 45 degrees to the opening on the edge of the 90 degree corner. That wasn't enough. The reason being is when I put it together, it's going to push the glue inward. If I would have put it on the other part, it would have, you have a tendency to smush glue out instead of smush glue in. And when glue comes out, you know, it makes a mess. All right. So I'm gonna put that together and hold that for just a minute and let that activator get in there and activate. All right. So close to one of the last things that we want to do is we want to put this together. We want to push our latch over so our barrel latch is in there. And we need our 2 countersunk screws here. All right. So I'm going to take this countersunk screw. I'm going to drop it in there, right there like that. And now the screw threads into the body, not the barrel. That way you end up with 2 pivot points for the barrel to ride on. So I'm going to make sure that it starts screwing in straight, and it's kind of a it's kind of a tough screw, but we're going to screw this all the way in. And these are things that you can do. You can pre-assemble and kind of go ahead and cut your threads before you paint. Just remember, if you get paint down in the threads you cut, they're going to be tight and stuff, and probably recut again. But let's go ahead and we're going to get that in there. And they will tighten down nice and snug. So now what we want to do is we want to push this over and get it to release, and make sure, like, I've got it all the way over. It kind of wants to just hang a little bit. What all you want to do, if it does that, is just push that over and kind of work this, because there's slack in here for me, because I didn't paint this. In everything that I do in design, I leave a set amount of gap between moving things to try to take an account for the normal amount of paint someone would use or put. So this side of the barrel, you would normally, as you're painting the barrel, you would paint this. Well, when you're painting this frame, you would have a tendency to get paint on the inside. So if you notice, there's a little bit of wiggle in there. But when you push this closed, it all pops and latches like it should. When you push this over, see, now the more I do this, the more tendency it has to go ahead and pop. And then it gets to the point that you can do your little wrist flick and reload. So there it is. There's the little sawed off shotgun, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Last but not least, and this is your responsibility. I don't know about other countries, but I do know in the US that for your replicas, you need to permanently attach your orange tip. And that is your responsibility to do that. Once you finish painting this, you need to attach your orange tip. That's all I have to say about that. But yeah, so there is the resin version of the sawed off. I'm exploring doing the coach version. I'm still trying to build up my fleet of resin printers, and I need to work on figuring out a larger format printer to be able to get like the stocks of some of these rifles and stuff in. But for now, there's only the resin version of the sawed off. But yeah, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, just comment below or go to the website, shoot me a message, and I can answer you there. Have a good one.